Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Hello and welcome to WrestleRamble episode 18. This is Luke Owen. I'm Ollie Davis and today we're talking about this week's episodes of Raw and Smackdown, including the build to Extreme Rules and the go-home show for this weekend's Backlash, and then we'll be choosing which episode we preferred out of the two. If you want to go to any of those discussions, go into the video description right now and click the links to take you right there, or stay here where we'll be talking my painful butt.
Yeah, man, your butt hurts, I believe. It was one of the first things you said to me when I got into the studio and had to do a quick costume change because the t-shirt that I was wearing has soaked through due to the terrible weather we are currently experiencing here in
I thought it was a
in
pattern.
London. You did, yeah. You thought it was part of the t-shirt.
Like a trendy tie-dye pattern?
Nope.
I say trendy, but maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, it was wet
Yeah.
from rain. But why does your butt hurt?
Okay, so I've been doing CrossFit to try and be more like Seth Rollins. When I picture, you've got his t-shirt on. When I picture like what sort of body I would like on me, not just like to have around me, like Seth Rollins following me around all the time. I want Seth Rollins' body.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I think that's the best, like, that's a good look. What would you go for? More
Kevin
Rusev?
Owens.
Kevin Owens?
Totally Kevin Owens. That man looks like he eats whatever he wants to, and that is the kind of life I want to lead.
You wouldn't go, see, I think Jinder's too far.
Oh, Jinder's way too far.
I would like the occasional bit of bread.
You can't maintain that.
Well, I'm sure there are naughty ways in which you can maintain that, but not Jinder. Jinder has no carbs. But that, so I did CrossFit. We did a new sort of squat thing where you're meant to thrust yourself up using the power of your ass.
Yes.
And you do that by tensing very hard and very quickly, and that sort of launches you up. And I thought...
I wouldn't say that when you're talking about you.
Straight up the ass. And I thought there was a few ladies there. This is for the ladies' butts, of course. My butt is far too powerful. This morning I wake up... I didn't know you could hurt in these dimples.
Oh yeah, no, they are painful, man.
Yeah.
As a man who hasn't seen the inside of a gym in 31 years,
You've never been to the gym?
No, not really, no.
Not even for an induction?
No. I've signed up for a couple.
But, never followed through.
Never followed through on them.
You don't want to follow through when you do the butt exercises?
No, absolutely not, no. So like the extent of my exercise is doing my DDP yoga.
Yeah.
And DDP is all about squeezing the glutes. Ladies, if you want to turn back the hand of time, squeeze them. Like that's what DDP always says.
So a lot of people love your impressions. Could you just roll out a few DDP lines?
DDP lines. It's mostly like my favorite of his is when you go into superstar. That's my favorite move of his.
The brief time I did it, I always remember at the start of the work, because I only had one workout. Maybe that was the only one I could find on a particular torrent site.
You got it northly.
So it was only that one, and I was a student. I didn't have any money, and he would go at the end, kick out.
Yeah, kick out.
And you do that.
You're a dead man.
You're a dead man.
And woman.
Or a woman. Like, I forgot about the gender equality. So yes, we should. That's the Ramble chat out the way. Now we're going to talk about wrestling. So Raw happened this week. We weren't in attendance like we were last week. Go and watch last week's episode for how we found that. But Kurt Angle kicked off this episode talking balls.
He certainly did. He came out to, now that Braun is out for 6 months.
Yes.
And a worked injury. Well, he is injured, but he's not going to be out for 6 months. They reckon...
4 to 8 weeks.
4 to 8 weeks, yeah, which is not exactly 6 months.
They claimed he had a shattered shoulder. That's quite hard
an
to
elbow
say.
as well.
Sorry, no, it was you're right, it was a shattered elbow.
This is why I'm paid the big bucks.
Yeah. So the thing here is they haven't really made any announcements. Oh, by the way, after Extreme Rules, we've got a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire coming up. And this was the first seed sown by a on-screen WWE personality on Raw. And it was Kurt Angle. He's doing his promos, and he just says in it, I've got to find out who's got the balls to face Brock Lesnar.
See, I thought that the seeds were sown last week.
Oh, really?
When Dean Ambrose was on the phone and he said, Kurt, I've got this great name for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
so I
that.
thought that was going to be the joke, that Dean gave him the name.
But the vast majority of people who watch Raw won't know that Great Balls of Fire is a thing yet.
No.
And so that Dean bit wouldn't have revealed the name, but this is the first like proper balls.
I think.
And why would Kurt listen to Dean?
I think, and perhaps I am blue sky thinking here, and I'm thinking well beyond my means. But I think this is actually going to be a storyline. I think that Great Balls of Fire is intentionally bad, so that when Stephanie comes back, she can berate Kurt for being like, I left you in charge here and you named a pay-per-view Great Balls of Fire. And a suggestion you took from Dean Ambrose, who's a lunatic. I need to come back here and I need to take charge of this situation. And that will lessen Kurt's power. And so Stephanie can take control of things.
Yeah, I mean, even if that was the case,
yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying
if you're worried that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I wasn't saying, here's my fantasy booking.
Guys, sit down. I've got something.
I know why we're calling it. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's my feeling. Because you can't literally have sat down in a meeting with 27 writers and then go like, do you know what would be a great name for a pay-per-view? Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah, but then if you say that in Vince's voice, you're like, oh no, he totally would have said something like that.
Can you do a Vince voice?
I don't know.
It's just you shouting.
Vince! I know, it's kind of a Rick and Morty thing. So Kurt, I don't know. I don't think... The only way I would like that storyline if they did it, if they just go all out for it, like when Triple H got the vote of no confidence and everyone, and you've got people like cameramen putting down their cameras going, we've done a lot of crazy things, but I'm not working a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire. Here's a line. You just crossed it, Kurt Angle.
Well, I mean, maybe it'll just be the first and only Great Balls of Fire. Like, maybe we won't get another one.
Well, like I've said, I think it's gone through the realms of ridiculousness now, and I quite enjoy saying it.
But anyway, we have got a match set up now for Extreme Rules that will set up the main event of Great Balls of Fire, which is a fatal five-way. And it's funny enough, actually, on the Attitude Era podcast, they were recently just talking about they didn't know what the five-way was called, because it's a fatal four-way and a six-pack challenge, but what's the five-one called? And funny enough, just turns out it's a fatal five-way.
A fearsome five-way?
Yep, maybe that, but so we've got a fatal five-way with...
Fiery five-way to tie in with the
Great Balls of Fire. Nice, yeah. So we have got Finn Balor, we've got Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, the big dog, and Bray Wyatt, the fat wizard.
Yeah, so the main criticism of this that I've heard is that it makes the Intercontinental title look pretty weak.
Yeah, Dave Meltzer was saying this.
Yeah.
That either the challenger or champion should have been in the Fatal 5-Way, because by not having either one of them in there, it very much sets up that the IC title is a mid-card belt, and once you get to the IC title, you cannot go any further.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would... I mean, would you have put Dean Ambrose in there? Making a six-pack challenge?
I mean, Dean was in the Elimination Chamber as Intercontinental Champion, so, I mean, he could have gone in there. My worry, and the reason why I wouldn't have put Dean in that match, because I don't buy into that whole... I mean, I get what Meltzer is saying, and I agree to a certain extent, but if you've got five of your top 5 stars in one match, your undercard is knackered.
That's
so
a bigger problem.
The last thing you want to do is put another one of your top guys, your upper guys, into that match.
Well, okay, so that there's a way to book around this, because I thought the same thing, and I thought you can have the best of both worlds, and that is, okay, we're going to have a series of qualifying matches to get into this 5-way or whatever it's called, or maybe Dean's initially in it, but Miz takes out Dean in such a way that Dean's like, you know what? The Intercontinental, this blood feud is so important. Take me out of that because I need to settle things with the Miz.
I think that's a much better way of doing it.
And then you sort of explain around why the Intercontinental title
this match and its participants have sort of been booked backwards.
Yeah.
In which, like, usually you would have like qualifying matches to get into a match of this caliber, whereas really, like, Kurt Angle just came out and said, like, yeah, we're having a match. It's these 5 lads, and then the 5 lads came out and said, this is why I should be in the match. It's like, you're already in the match, mate.
Yeah, I tell you what though. This is going to be a hell of a match.
Yeah, this should be really good fun.
Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, and Roman Reigns and Bray, like, those 3 wrestlers in wrestling terms are a step above.
Yeah.
And then you've got Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns, who I consider as Roman Reigns is a very good in-ring worker. Bray Wyatt, I'm kind of unsure about.
I run a bit hot and cold on Bray.
Yeah.
He's a better character than he is a performer, but I really like him, though.
There's some matches where it's fantastic, like all those early Shield Wyatt matches, phenomenal. The Daniel Bryan match with Bray Wyatt at Royal Rumble, fantastic. But then you're like, maybe that was the other side of the equation, pulling more of the
I was about to say,
there.
like, his match with Cena was really good, but it always might be because he was in the ring with Big Match John.
So, yes, that was the opening segment. And then it went into Jeff Hardy beating Sheamus.
Oh, do you know what? When they announced that it was going to be Jeff v Sheamus, I instantly thought, I was like, I'm pretty sure we saw this match just a couple of weeks ago, forgetting that it was Jeff and Cesaro and Matt and Sheamus.
Yeah.
But then I did think, oh, well, at least Sheamus will pick up the victory here because they need some victory points.
And this is the first test as a heel tag team, outside tag team turmoil.
And what we got was a botched finish and the Hardys win. Again.
Yeah, so the Hardys haven't lost since they've come back.
They're really protecting the Hardys. And, like, I get it. Like, you're bringing them back and you want to make them look strong and everything. I get that. But it's making... The rest of the tag division looks weak. Tag team division, I should get my words out there, looks weak already because Sheamus and Cesaro single-handedly beat all of them in one match. And now the Hardys are beating them all the time in, like, straight matches. So it just looks like the Hardys are here, then Sheamus and Cesaro are here, and then everyone else is just down here.
Well, and then there's a Revival over here who are sadly out injured right now.
Yeah, my boy Scott.
So this is it's unfortunately repetitive. I hate it. It's very, very lazy booking when you're going to go into a tag team feud or even a singles match, and Raw does it all the time. They just play the match out every week on TV. So by the time it gets to the pay-per-view, I'm like, I don't want to see this. I've seen every possible variation this can go. So you can keep them apart, right? So you just book them against other teams, that's fine. And then they're on these two unstoppable paths. It's a title feud.
Yeah.
You book both to win, boom, and then they collide.
And I
that's not how Raw books anymore.
I also thought as well, with their 50-50 booking mentality, Sheamus should have won, really. I'd imagine that next week Cesaro will beat Matt, because if he doesn't, then... I mean, I don't know, mate.
What's the point?
What is the point? But then again, that if Matt does lose next week and that's the first loss for the Hardys, I think that's a real clear indication of how the WWE see the Hardys, which is that Jeff is the star, Matt is the fat weight that brings this all down. I don't think he's fat, but Matt's always just been seen as the dead weight of the team.
Oh, for sure, unfortunately. Do
Unfortunately.
you want to hear my way I would have done this? I've just come up with this, so bear with me.
God, we're just fantasy booking on the fly here,
It's
mate.
because we've got the very good series, Fantasy Booking Warfare, that comes out at the weekend. So I would have had... we'll talk about this now, I guess. The Golden Truth segment.
Yes, let's dive into that.
So, what you could have done, like Golden Truth goes into Kurt Angle's office and says, look, I know we lost Tag Team Turmoil last week, but please, just one more chance. And Goldust gives R-Truth the pep talk, and Kurt's like, you can't have a Tag Team Championship opportunity, but if you can beat the Hardys tonight, you can have it. I know it's face versus face team, but I think you can generally get around these things.
Yeah.
You have the Hardys versus Golden Truth. They have a match. I personally very much like R-Truth as an in-ring performer. I think he's very, very quick. And they just fall short. It's slightly R-Truth's fault. And then Goldust does the turn.
Yeah.
And then you've kept the Hardys and Shimaro away from each other for a bit. Maybe even put Shimaro on commentary.
Yeah.
Just find a way. There are other people on the roster apart from the person you're going to feud with at the pay-per-view.
I agree.
So next up, or unless you've got anything to say.
No, we can talk about the Golden Tree segment when we come to it.
Okay.
I would just say that I really liked the fact that it came out of nowhere. And it was like they were doing their entrance. And it was like Goldust waited for that moment when he knew that R-Truth wouldn't be expecting it. And that's what I really liked about that angle.
Yeah. Yeah, I was... You know when you're like, I didn't know I cared so much. And then I kind of, when that happened, I had many flashbacks of how long it took those two guys to get together.
Yeah.
Goldust would be going up to R-Truth every week.
That angle went on for like 6 months.
Yeah, it did.
Long time.
But I never hated it. Like, I was always going, like, and some of them,
hated it.
Some of them I really found quite funny, those two together.
I can't wait for their series of pre-show matches.
Oh, yeah, that's got pre-show written all over.
I mean, yeah, there's no way they're getting onto the main card.
What about Alicia Fox's fearsome feud with Sasha Banks?
I mean, you said that so loud, my headphones broke a little bit.
Something popped in there.
Yeah, and you said her name incorrectly again.
Alicia
Fox.
So we'll bleep those out.
Yeah.
Hopefully later.
Alicia Fox beat Sasha Banks, and I'll be honest with you, when they called I'm pretty sure it was a botched finish last week. It wasn't.
No way that
she
was
wasn't meant to have
intentional.
her shoulder up. As soon as they said having the rematch, I said Alicia's winning this.
How did you know?
Because it just there was no other reason to have that match again other than Felicia
Ox.
by Felicia. There was no other reason than to have Alicia Fox win. That's the only reason to book that match. So as soon as it came down, I was like, yeah, Alicia's picking up the win here, and it's going to look really bad for poor old Sasha.
Yeah, so that is a weird one.
Yeah.
I've heard things not from very good sites, Vince McMahon sees her as injury prone and all that nonsense.
No,
so
I don't buy into that.
That's why she's just lost out of nowhere.
No, I just think it was they booked the return match, and
you got to have the rubber match at the pay-per-view.
Absolutely. Also 50-50 booking.
So The Miz beat Dean Ambrose.
Great match.
No, Dean Ambrose beat The Miz.
I was about to say,
wow.
Dean Ambrose...
Put those the wrong way round.
Okay, so...
I really enjoyed this match.
I will say now, I actually quite enjoyed this week's Raw. I know you gave it an average on your review.
But that means, that was a good Raw for me.
Yeah, I'd have actually gone a little bit above.
No.
I'd have gone core. I really, really enjoyed this week's Raw.
Holy moly.
With the exception of, there was a couple of moments where I went, and this was one of them. I thought this was a terrific match, and I loved it, and I was really, really enjoying it, up until the DQ finish.
Okay.
And I hate 15-minute long matches that just end in a DQ. If you're going to do the DQ finish, don't go 15 minutes. Because that's 15 minutes of just wasted time.
It's a 3-hour Raw, though.
Well, I get that,
Yeah,
but
I know.
at the same time, you're building the crowd up, because all the crowd do is they just react to it completely negatively.
Yeah.
And then that sets a tone then for the rest of the show. It's like it happened when we were at Raw last week when they booked Seth Rollins v Samoa Joe. And they were like, well, we don't want either of them to lose, so we'll just end in a DQ. And everyone just groaned. You just because it's a rubbish finish after a 15-minute match.
Well, I thought the Rollins-Joe match was a little bit weak anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean it didn't help.
I was a lot
matters.
more into The Miz versus Dean Ambrose.
There was a great near fall when he did the skull crusher.
Yeah.
Amazing
So
near fall.
I've heard criticism about the finish as well. Now you've said that too. I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
I know, like the actual DQ. I see what you're saying about the 15 minutes. That didn't grate with me that much, but I thought the actual booking of the finish, that Dean grabbed the low blow attempt from the Miz, that makes him look cool, and rather than just be like, what you doing? He's the lunatic fringe. He just acts on impulse sometimes. So he looks at him, I'm a badass, kick you in the nuts.
Yeah, but then Dean acts really upset and he's confused as to why he got DQ'd. It's like, because you kicked him in the nads, mate.
Yeah,
there's a reason why.
After that, he should just start mouthing off Austin style, shouldn't he?
Oh, totally, yeah. But instead he was going what did I do? What did I do? Why am I? And then the ending of that match just felt super, just mad awkward. It was a real negative for me.
It will result in a was there any and if you get DQ'd,
yeah, I mean,
so this is the Extreme Rules match that Kurt Angle's been made.
And what an extreme rule it is! If you do act with an extreme rule, you'll be disqualified.
Yeah, it's no Extreme Rules stipulation. So, and you can lose the title if there's a DQ.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't Miz just run in and try and get? Yeah, I don't know.
I've only ever liked that rule once, and I think it was when it was the Rock v Benoit. Who's he? In 2000, I think it was. I think it was Fully Loaded 2000, and it was
take your word for it.
And it was Shane McMahon in Benoit's corner, and it was awesome as well because Benoit, the Rock went after him with the title, and the ref saw it and DQ'd him. And then they restarted the match, and Benoit was champion for all of 10 seconds.
That's
but it was an amazing moment because main event, brand new champion. You're like, oh my god, Benoit's champion! And then they restarted the match. But it was great, but it just seems pointless here.
A great moment in Stevie Richards' career.
Yeah.
Alexa Bliss took out Bayley, and then Kurt Angle made the. He has not been good main event for Extreme Rules. The Miz Dean Ambrose match, and then here. A kendo stick on a pole match.
This is
as a result of this segment.
Putting more fuel to my fire for my storyline. That Stephanie's going to come in and be like, a kendo stick on a pole match?
Yeah.
This isn't 1999.
I trusted you with my women's division.
Exactly. Like that's what I'm thinking as well. Like it's. I was expecting it to just be like an Extreme Rules match or maybe like a kendo stick match. But when he went a kendo stick on a pole match, I literally went, oh, okay.
Because I'm kind of like, to do that, how's it going to, do you balance the kendo stick so it's on a pole?
Yeah, like dangling down, yeah.
But it had to be a pretty high pole.
Yeah, which is why Alexa has the disadvantage. She's only 5 foot, bless her. Do you hear her on Jericho's podcast?
No, I didn't.
She was great. Really, really great.
I thought it would have been better as a street fight. I thought a women's street fight in jeans, chucking cans, not beer cans, rubbish bins, trash cans at each other.
Oh, that'd been
that
so
would have been
great,
more fun. It's sort of tying with the whole women's revolution thing. Now we're giving them an Extreme Rules
exactly,
match.
rather than like you get to be the first women to compete on a something on a pole match.
Yeah.
Vince Russo has to be back.
Neville and TJP beat Jack Gallagher and Austin Aries. The crowd kind of ruined
this crowd. I hate beach balls. Hate beach balls with a passion. I said to you when we were at Raw last week, there was so the beach ball mania kicked off again during the Cruiserweight match. Like we're trying to get we kept saying bring back the Cruiserweights, bring back the Cruiserweights. We finally get them. So what do we do now? Just throw beach balls around and shout boring. Let me finish.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I was a bit curt there, but now I've got a point to make here. And when we were there live London last week, Beach Baller Mania kicked off again, and
wild.
Security guard pulled the plug, and the boy went down. Everyone was booing the security guard, and I turned to you and I said, "If that beach ball had come near me, I'd have done the exact same thing."
Yeah,
because watch the match. You're there to watch the match. I'm all for crowds chanting whatever they want, but like last week's NXT. With Hideo Itami and Roderick Strong. Amazing match. The crowd were just into themselves, just chanting back and forth of themselves and not watching a great match that was happening in the ring.
Sure. I definitely agree with a lot of what you've said, but I also have a lot of sympathy for the crowd in that personally I wouldn't do it because I think wrestlers should be respected in general, but I can see how just if you're an average person going along to a show and you've been conditioned as this match isn't something you need to pay attention to because it doesn't mean anything. They're just cruiserweights. They get 5-minute segments.
They're 4 great wrestlers.
But again, this is bubble mentality to the wider the wider audience of people who go to these shows. They're just like, but they've got stupid purple ropes and. Every single match I've watched of these just goes 5 minutes and it's really quick. And
then you got to wait another 10 minutes for the ropes to be taken down again.
So, and they're probably bored by that as well with the preparation.
I will admit that doesn't help, but I sometimes I think... Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, so I was just going to say the crowd need to make their own entertainment sometimes.
But I do think that sometimes the crowd can get against the wrong thing, i.e... SummerSlam last year was the Seth Rollins, Finn Balor for the Universal Championship. Crowd kept booing the Universal Championship.
Yes.
Like anytime it was shown on screen, the crowd would boo.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not their fault that the belt sucks.
Yeah.
And same way, these 4 lads, it's not their fault that they're surrounded by purple ropes, and it's not their fault they've been booked into a 5-minute match. It's not but we should at least appreciate what they're trying to do with this 5 minutes that they've got.
I agree, and I also think WWE have really screwed up the Cruiserweight division presentation, so I can see why this is blown back in their face.
It really didn't take them long.
No.
It really didn't. It took them, actually. They did it in a quicker time than I gave them credit for.
So I think that the beach ball stuff is rather passable, but I think because that's kind of it's just distraction, but there was one chant. It was a "This is boring" chant, and I thought that was actually
so unfair.
It was rude.
It was rude. It was so unfair.
I don't think that was very polite.
No, I completely agree.
That was bad of you, New
That's
Jersey.
We can agree on.
Did you see Austin Aries' tweet?
No, I didn't.
He tweeted out the next day, "Great crowd, New Jersey. Classy as always." It's great. Roman Reigns beat Finn Balor in a fantastic match.
Superb match. Wrong guy went over.
I would say top 5 of the year on Raw so far.
It was awesome. So good. And that's what happens when you put 2 really great wrestlers into the ring and give them 15 minutes with a clean finish. Because everyone was super into the near falls. Everyone was into the finish at the end. Everyone got into both guys.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing a 15-minute match with a rubbish finish, with a DQ finish. like this had a proper conclusion, and everyone was super into it. And I loved it. I thought it was great.
But as you said, the wrong guy did go over here because Roman had an out.
Yeah.
He was selling the shoulder throughout, a selling performance, which I think was very, very good. Especially as he's the big man in that dynamic. You got the small man Finn Balor, big man Roman Reigns. He should be the one selling the injury, right?
Yeah.
But actually, they made that work. I thought it was a very well worked match. But the Roman wouldn't lose anything. I know he lost to Braun Strowman previously, but he was injured. You know, the guy had the most physical match in the history of the world. So if he's selling that shoulder and Finn Balor just manages to overcome him, Finn Balor looks awesome, Roman Reigns is still where he is.
Absolutely.
But what you've done now, Roman Reigns can't really go any higher, so he just stays there, and Finn Balor was beat, so he just stays here. But you could have done that.
Yeah.
You know?
Problem there, Ollie, is A, Finn won last time, so 50-50 booking. Roman has to win this time.
In August, yeah.
And B, Roman's already lost a match in the last month, so he can't lose two if you're going to be the top guy. If you're going to be the big dog with his injured shoulder hitting spears and Superman punches.
Yeah. Well, the bigger thing as well is I would prefer Finn to have the match at Great Balls of Fire. So what a way to build him up even more.
That's the other side of it. Like, okay, so the front runners, the word on the street is the front runners to win the Fatal 5-Way are either Finn or Seth, and both of them lost tonight. So like, what a way to build the people that might be like going against Brock Lesnar. It's really counterproductive.
How you can't handle the truth is what I've called this segment. We've already alluded to it. Goldust turned on our truth.
That was a great little angle.
After like 2 years together, it feels like.
And did you tell me last week they've got like the best house show records?
So part of the storyline for Tag Team Turmoil was the Golden Truth going up to Kurt and saying, come on, let's have a shot at the Hardys. And Kurt's like, no, you can't. I've seen your win-loss record. Hinting at they've got a really bad win-loss record. Like that means anything in WWE. Obviously it doesn't, because someone goes on to cagematch.com, finds out what the actual house show win record is.
Yeah.
They win all the time. They're undefeated in 2017. 36-0, I think the win record was.
That's
and
so
they
good.
build the story. So, like, I mean, it's a house show, so it doesn't really mean anything.
Doesn't count.
And it's.
Do you know what? WCW had that issue. Remember with Goldberg when he was going on his winning streak?
Yeah.
And so, like, super hardcore fans started counting house show wins as well. But then when they would go to Nitro, the number would be different because they were only counting Nitro matches.
Yeah.
And so then fans stopped counting and stopped caring.
And there was also like, how did it go up 20 wins in a week?
Yeah, there was a lot of that as well.
You'll
Started
see,
making up numbers.
I don't make that same mistake in my Asuka main roster debut fantasy booking scenario, which will be up on Saturday.
What a tease.
Oh, what a tease. So Big Cass beat Titus O'Neil. Also, like, this was two back-to-back very good low mid-card segments.
Absolutely. Everyone gets a storyline. It sucks that Apollo Crews is stuck with Titus O'Neil, but at least they're into something. And like,
I like Titus.
It really knocks. He was great, actually.
He's very good.
Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Titus in the ring, but as a personality, I think he's quite good. When he came out doing his old like Enzo shtick, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was really good. It's a real knockdown for Enzo and Cass, though. Like, it really feels like the company were already stopped like getting behind them to the point where they're not in the tag title picture. Haven't really been, and now they're feuding with Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews. I mean, poor guys.
Well, at least they're doing something. What do you think of Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil as a heel tag team? Try and say Titus O'Neil heel as
Titus
well.
O'Neil heel?
Yeah, well, that took me a lot more times to do when I recorded the Raw review. Great to see that you did it first time. But yeah, Apollo Crews, the Smile Man.
Yeah.
As a heel.
He needed a fresh up of character, so yeah, thumbs up for this.
Even when he's got a sort of frown on his face, still kind of looks like he's smiling.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins in the main event, as you've already said. No, he beat Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
so
via
when
DQ.
You said, via DQ, so he was beaten down. He finished the show laying on the floor.
And that's, oh man, a DQ finish in the main event. Like, why didn't you put Roman and Finn on last?
I agree, that should have been the main event. That would have been really nice. I wish WWE really booked their weekly television like a sporting card.
Yeah.
Like, you know, here's the main, like, this is the big main event of this evening, And you just have not like a pay-per-view caliber thing, but you can easily... Professional actual combat sports do it fine. They have weekly shows, boxing, UFC, BAMMA. They all manage to do it. Why can't... And WWE have more control over these sorts of things than anything because it's predetermined. You can script what's going to go where.
When I've been going back and watching old Raws, like I'm currently going through 2001 at the moment, every time a show starts, they're like, here's tonight's main event.
Yeah.
And here's some other matches that are going to be happening on the card as well. Like, you've got a show, or so as soon as you tune into the TV, you're like, I know exactly what I'm getting into. You don't then have a 20-minute talking segment where they set up a main event and some other matches in the show.
Yeah, totally agree. Anyway, this match between Rollins and Wyatt, for me, never properly clicked.
Yeah.
Which is saying, because I watched back the highlights, because I thought, was I being unfair? I watched it quite early in the morning. And I watched the highlights, and I was like, these are some really good spots. Bray Wyatt does a very good jawbreaker off the top rope on Seth Rollins. I thought that was good, and there were a few bits on the outside. But then I was like, no, I was very bored throughout the majority of this match because it just never got into that gear.
Well, that's it. Like, you watch the highlights back, which I imagine was like 90 seconds or 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes of a 15-minute match. And like that, those extra 13 minutes really count when there's not a great deal happening. It's a real shame. I thought they would click together.
Yeah, especially on their Shield Wyatt family past. And it just, Samoa Joe for the freaking 100th time runs in, beats up Seth Rollins. We've had this angle since January when Joe first debuted.
I feel really bad for Joe. I feel really bad for him. He's he's one of the best wrestlers they've got in that company, not just on that brand, in the whole company. And I just feel like they're squandering him to useless run-ins all the time, and then losing to Seth Rollins all the time.
On Smackdown Live, we had Kevin Owens open the show as his Face of America highlight reel.
Yeah.
So he's stolen Chris Jericho's gimmick.
The Kevin Owens highlight reel.
Yeah.
And he cut a fairly standard Kevin Owens promo, and
it's a shame. He seemed like he was getting back to where he used to be. Like when I think of Kevin Owens, I think of Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor 2011, 2012. That fantastic. And then the closest thing to that was when he debuted in NXT, immediately taking out Sami Zayn. Instantly hooked on that storyline and character. First night in the company. And then his first night on the main roster, he destroyed John Cena, and then he destroyed him again at the pay-per-view. That's the Kevin Owens. And it worked. And he was super over. And then they seemed to tinker, like, oh no, let's put him with Jericho, which was great, but Jericho came out of that looking the star. Yeah. I think Owens actually went down a few notches, and he was the Universal Champion forever. And then it felt like they were getting what they had back with the Chris Jericho feud on SmackDown, really brutally taking him out. And I thought, we might be on something as well, because Steen is he's been one of my favourite wrestlers for a long time. And it just seems like they're going down the I can speak French, I wear a suit, I'm the face of America because I can. It's weak. It's a weak character.
Yeah, it is a bit weak. Do you know what I don't think helped the character? Because he debuted this whole new Face of America character when he moved over to SmackDown. It was like, here's my new look. This is my new thing I'm doing now. This is my new gimmick. The first thing he did was lose the US title to Jericho, and then just won it back a couple of days later. And I think, actually, that's been really detrimental to this new version of Kevin Owens, because now I just look at him and be like, yeah, maybe you're the Face of America who lost the title.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of forget that happened because I think
that's what WWE are hoping you do.
Oh my god, yeah. So then AJ Styles came out and did a bit of jaw jabbering because they've got the Backlash match, which we'll have our predictions for on Saturday. And then Jinder Mahal came out, and then he started to speak a different language as well.
Because he can.
Yeah. This transitioned into a match where Jinder Mahal beat AJ Styles.
Yep, quite rightly so. He is challenging for the WWE Championship on Sunday, so he really did have to win. I was petrified, actually, they were going to end this in a DQ schmoz. But actually, I think they did it the smart way of that. Styles might have looked to have the match won, but then Kevin Owens wrecked it and hit him in the knee with the belt, and that led to the finish.
That looked vicious.
Yeah,
the way Styles sold that knee, I was like, is he actually hurt?
Here's a hot take. AJ Styles is very, very good.
Oh my god, isn't he?
He's the best wrestler they have in that entire company. I was talking about Samoa Joe in the Raw review. I mean, he's here and he's awesome, but AJ, mate. Like, he's
one of the best wrestlers in the world. And
Yeah.
we're talking like Okada over in Japan as well.
Absolutely.
He's up there.
He's so good.
Well, he's not even up there. He's 1 or 2.
Yeah,
right?
you're pretty
That's
much,
where he
yeah.
is. And I remember when I always watched him in TNA. Loved him. Great theme music. So good that TNA had the same theme music. And I was always very much behind him, but I thought there was something lacking in his presence. Great wrestler, but lacking in presence, and I was never convinced on his promos. But oh my god, the last 5 years, the guy has been incredible.
His trip to Japan has been the best thing that could have ever happened to him.
Yeah.
Like he's just come back as a completely new man. It's so awesome to see.
Yeah, he can really carry a promo now.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, like you said, I agree. There was, when I read online, I sort of always browsed the Reddits to see what the general opinion's like before I write my reviews, so I can say, address certain things that have come up. And a lot of people were annoyed.
Was there a lot of AJ's buried mates?
Yeah. And I thought, but AJ did not win. He lost pretty dirty here.
Yeah.
There was Singh Brothers interference, and then there was the surprisingly brutal looking thing of Owens taking out his knee with the belt.
Yeah,
and there was all that involved. And Jinder stole the win.
Yeah.
I thought that was fine.
There was a lot of this last year when AJ he got beaten twice by
James Ellsworth.
I saw loads of people on Twitter going like, I can't believe they're burying AJ Styles. And I'm like, how are they burying AJ Styles? Like, James Ellsworth didn't win the match.
Yeah.
Dean Ambrose won the match for him. And he's the challenger for the title. So yeah, I thought it was a perfect booking. It was so good, and it was better for the James Ellsworth character. Because then he thought, I can beat AJ Styles. I've done it twice. I loved that whole storyline. I thought it was... You swore there. I thought it was wonderful.
I think in 5 or so years, everyone's going to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I think like they'll look back on that and go, you know what, that was a real fun bit of... Maybe it wasn't great to live through, but it was a fun storyline.
I loved living through it. I thought it was a great few weeks television. Can I give you my my one criticism I've got with Jinder at the moment? I
thought he had a weak promo. There wasn't much in his voice.
I quite like his promos. I think he's all right. He's also been he
good.
was on Jericho's podcast this week. I was just listening to it on the way to the studio.
Your best mate Jericho.
And but Jericho at the moment, because he's on tour with Fozzy. That's the first 15 minutes just him talking about Fozzy. So a lot of skipping to be done there.
A lot of 30 seconds.
It is, yeah. Just out on the tube.
Yeah.
30 seconds. You just hear like little blips of his music. Blip, 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 blip. And then you're like, okay, now he's talking again.
I like the new song, Judas.
The ones for NXT,
yeah, this weekend. But anyway, what was your one criticism?
My one criticism, I don't like his finisher.
Yeah, it's rubbish. It's like the
Cobra Clutch thing. Like, in theory, the Cobra Clutch Slam can be quite good, but he makes it look really weak.
He needs to go down with them.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel... I think he does.
Does he?
I don't know.
Didn't he throw him from a standing position?
I don't know, but it just feels like...
I can't remember.
It feels like the guys don't hit the mat. They float to the mat. There's no impact to it. And it's like the AA. One of my least favourite finishers in the history of wrestling, because there's zero impact to the move. The only time it's ever looked good is when he's doing it off the top of a ladder, because then you fall really far. But like when he does it as a desperation move, and guys just float over and just take the safest bump they possibly can. Randy Orton loves taking that move because he doesn't have to do anything, and I don't
dive.
Dive. Perhaps that's why Randy wanted to work with Jinder. He's like, he's got a finisher that I can take, and I don't have to take a bump. I don't really have to take a bump with it. That's grand.
Next up, we had the segment of the evening, the whole tag segment, to be honest. Breezango beating the Colognes, but beforehand we had the Fashion Files.
Such an improvement from last week's Fashion Files.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's the best one they've done so far.
Yeah, really
better than the first one.
I laughed out loud with the Baron Corbin 3 T-shirts, all wolves.
Yeah,
loved. I thought that was really loved. And I texted it to you as soon as I heard it, which was like, day one is H. I laughed so much.
So I thought they were just like. So I kind of invented my own backstory for what day one-ish means, because I don't know what it means. You don't know what it means either.
No, I thought it was probably maybe what you thought was just like, we've been here since day one.
Yeah, like we've been dominating this place since day one-ish. Like, I don't know why that sounds more threatening in my head when I think about it.
I always thought it was like, because like they haven't been there since day one of the WWF, obviously. Yeah. But since they've been there, so it is
They're
day
as
one.
Good as.
It's day one-ish, yeah.
It means ish. The ish part, apparently, in America, is another word for the S word, as in poop.
Oh, really? So it's day one S word?
Yeah. Day one. This is day one.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, no, I'm with you. When you put the inflection in, that makes more sense.
So great Fashion Files skit, great puns.
Yeah.
Shame they can't book more than 2 tag teams at any one time on SmackDown, because the Colognes lost out pretty rotten here.
Yeah, remember when they came in and looked really strong against American Alpha? And
I like those Colognes.
Yeah. Whatever happened to American Alpha?
Yeah, geez, they're the former champions.
Talk about a tag team, an amazing tag team. Like, if you go back and watch their NXT stuff, like their match against Revival at last year's Takeover in Dallas, that match is electric. It's so great, and they're amazing. But yeah, they've just come to the main roster and it's like, oh, we don't know what to do with them, so we just won't do anything with them.
Do you think they're just hanging out with Blake and Murphy somewhere?
Poor Blake and Murphy.
So, how did you feel about the Usos promo this week?
Yeah, okay, so I took
a lot of people disagreed with
mate,
you
I
last
took a
week.
lot of heat. Took a lot of heat from people last week for not liking the 12 days promo.
Which is a great promo.
And I took on what you said. I enjoyed the fact that they showed a bit more character than anyone else does. Everybody else does, because everybody else just says like, "Here, oh man, Finn Balor's promo."
Yeah.
When he's like, "It's his yard, but it's more universe." Oh, mate, that's not good at all.
It's like when I write the video descriptions for the YouTube videos, and I'm trying to get in as many keywords for Google to pick up as possible.
Yeah.
So it doesn't create normal sentences.
No.
You overuse the same words, and that's what WWE verbiage is like.
So, this week's promo, I loved it. I thought it was a great promo this week.
Damn.
Because this time they didn't overstay its welcome. They didn't run a gag into the ground, which is what I felt like they did with the 12 days thing. I thought they really nailed it this week. I thought it was great. And I love that catchphrase of like, it's not paranoia, it's the Usos.
What is it? Us?
Oh, mate, that's a great
Do you know
catchphrase.
what Us means?
Brother.
Oh, I thought it was cousin. But it's probably
I think it's brother.
I'll go with you. I don't know.
No.
Carmella beat Naomi after a pretty long contract signing segment. James Ellsworth was fun, but
he was the best thing in it.
He isn't wrestling, and he isn't one of the main featured people. I was into the whole welcoming committee thing, even though they are a weak faction. This was the first, quite dull, disappointing segment they've had in the storyline so far.
No, I liked it. Actually, do you know what? At the end of the time I thought they came off really badly was on Talking Smack. They had the 3 of them, because they're calling them Royalty Glow and Fire. I think that's what their little unit name is, what they keep referring to them as.
Royalty Glow and Fire.
Yeah. Or Royalty Glow Fire or something like that, yeah.
That's terrible.
It's bad, isn't it? It's actually worse than the welcoming committee.
I want Eric Rowan to just pop a balloon over their heads.
Mate, you should have seen him on Talking Smack.
I know, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. I was going to say, that was great.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if it was great.
I thought it was great. Just they took it a bit too far, and they let it run longer than it really needed to.
Yeah.
But I thought the women on it were much worse. But I thought the segment itself was fine, and then the match was. There was a moment in the match when they were exchanging kicks, and it felt like that was the bit that was meant to be during the ad break. And then when
commercial.
Yeah, cut to commercial, and then you just run around just doing these really naff kicks, and then we're back. Let's get the heat.
Yeah,
like that's what it felt like it was meant to be. But all the good stuff was actually in the commercial break, and then we got all the naff stuff, and then they went to the heat.
Well, now SmackDown in the States, at least, I didn't see it this way, but they fade the video down into the left, maybe, and adverts will play.
Oh, really?
So the ad break will play, but the actual show will continue happening either in the corner or big and the adverts in the middle. They do it on sports sometimes, I've seen. The main problem with this is I feel like it could have shaved a lot of time off, and we would have got the pre-announced Rusev segment, where he was meant to... He announced last week that he was going to turn up and he was going to demand his championship opportunity at Money in the Bank from Shane McMahon.
Whatever happened to that?
Well, he tweeted that he was at the Predators hockey game.
Right.
The Nashville Predators game. Which means he got cut from the show.
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler did a promo.
Yep.
Sami Zayn announced that he will have a match against Baron Corbin.
Poor old Sammy, just like he's geek of the week every single week. I mean, we didn't bring it up on last week's WrestleRamble when he had that backstage segments with.
I like that.
Really? Why?
I thought it was funny.
No, it wasn't, man. It just makes him look like the biggest
I
dog.
thought he plays that role very well.
Oh no, I don't. Maybe it's just because I'm too much of a Sammy mark, but I don't want to see Sammy put in that position because it just makes. Because then, as a fan, you're talking about outside the bubble. Any casual fan looking at us like, look at this loser. Why would if then
you're laughing at him?
Yeah. If he then gets a championship opportunity, he's not going to look like a credible guy because he's the dork that no one likes. He's me at school.
So it's a very good performance of a specific character. But yes, we both know that Sami Zayn can be so much more, and that so much more cannot happen within the same character as those skits.
If you ever want to give examples as to why they look better in NXT than they do on the main roster, and the main roster don't know what to do with NXT stars, look no further than Sami Zayn and Bayley.
Randy Orton in the main event beat Baron Corbin in a match with no dives.
No.
It was pretty boring.
Not a great match. I expected nothing less from Randy Orton and Baron Corbin, so they delivered from pretty much what I was expecting out of them. And then Jinder came down at the end and stood tall with the title, which means he's definitely not winning on Sunday.
But which show was better, Raw or SmackDown? Very quickly, because we've already gone over. As usual, what do you think?
I'm actually going to Raw this week.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough, isn't it? Because I thought both shows were below average. Not terrible, but just below average. Oh, actually, I thought Raw was average, didn't I? And I gave this SmackDown Ellsworthy. But SmackDown was an easier watch. I really like the tag team stuff. But Raw had the Roman Reigns Finn Balor match. I'm going to have to give it to Raw as well.
Yeah, I think SmackDown for me, outside of the tag team stuff, I wasn't really into much else on the show. Whereas Raw, I thought had two really great matches. And I quite enjoyed the two lower card angles they booked in there. Some questionable booking, all over the show. But as the first 3 hour Raw I've seen outside of a draft special or something like that, that I've really enjoyed.
If you cut that out down to 2 hours, that'd be a hell of a Raw.
Hell of a Raw.
So that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. Click the videos that have just appeared over Luke's face to catch up with the latest WrestleRamble or even the latest WrestleTalk news. And of course, support WrestleTalk on Patreon and subscribe to this channel. We'll see... no, I've done the outro wrong. This is Luke Owen. I'm Ollie Davis. That was rambling.